When your own son gives you a thumbs up to stay away, what do? I did something no one expected, and the fallout was unbelievable. Watch till the end to find out. There are moments in life when you feel the ground shift beneath your feet, and you know deep down that things will never be quite the same again. For me, that moment came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day where the biggest excitement is whether I'll have a second cup of coffee or finally tackle the laundry mountain in the guest room. I was sitting in my favorite armchair, the one with the faded floral print and the perfect view of the bird feeder outside, scrolling through my phone. My grandkids had just sent me a new batch of photos, one of them missing their 2 front teeth, another dressed as a dinosaur for pajama day at preschool. I smiled, heart full, and even chuckled at a cat meme my friend Linda had sent me. You know the one, a grumpy tabby in a sweater, looking like he's about to file his taxes. Life felt simple, sweet, and predictable. Then my phone buzzed. The family group chat. Now let me tell you, this chat is usually a source of joy and, let's be honest, a little chaos. It's where we share everything from birthday plans to grocery lists and the occasional debate over who's hosting Thanksgiving. I opened it, expecting a cute update or maybe a dinner invite. Instead, I saw a message that made my heart skip a beat. We think it's better if Mom stays away for now. I blinked. Once, twice, 3 times. Surely I'd misread it. Maybe it was a typo, or maybe autocorrect had struck again. But no, there it was, plain as day, sitting in the chat like a little digital bomb. My daughter-in-law, Sarah, had sent it. No emojis, no explanation, just those words. My mind raced. Was this about the time I brought over that casserole with too much garlic? Or maybe when I offered gentle advice about the kids' screen time? I replayed every recent interaction in my head, searching for a clue. Before I could even process what was happening, my son, my own flesh and blood, reacted with a thumbs up. A thumbs up, not even a heart, not a let's talk about this, just a cold, digital thumb. I stared at the screen, feeling a strange mix of shock and disbelief. Was I being benched from my own family? Voted off the island, Survivor style, with nothing but a thumbs up to mark my exit? I sat there, phone in hand, trying to make sense of it all. My mind wandered back to when my son was little, how he'd run to me with scraped knees and big dreams, how I'd been the one to cheer him on at every soccer game, bake cupcakes for every school event, and stay up late helping with science projects. I thought about all the times I'd been there, not just as a mother, but as a friend, a confidant, and more recently, a grandmother who never missed a birthday or a ballet recital. And now, with one message, I was being told to stay away. No explanation, no conversation, just a digital decree. I'll admit, my first reaction was to laugh. Not a happy laugh, but the kind you let out when something is so absurd, you can't quite believe it's real. I mean, really, was I suddenly the villain in my own family story? Had I missed the memo where I became the family pariah? I looked around my quiet living room, half expecting a camera crew to jump out and tell me I was on some hidden camera show. But no, it was just me, my phone, and the echo of that message. As the minutes ticked by, the shock gave way to a dull ache in my chest. I thought about calling my son, demanding an explanation, or maybe sending a long, heartfelt message to the group chat. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was hurt, or maybe it was the realization that sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing at all. I put my phone down and stared out the window, watching a pair of cardinals flit around the feeder. I wondered if they ever had family drama, or if their biggest worry was finding the next sunflower seed. I replayed the message in my mind, over and over, searching for hidden meaning. Was this about boundaries? Was I too involved, too present, too much? Or was it something else entirely, something I couldn't see from my side of the screen? I thought about all the times I'd tried to help, to offer advice, to be there for my son and his family. Had I crossed a line without realizing it? Or was this just a moment of stress, a miscommunication blown out of proportion? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the living room, I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. I missed my family already. The laughter, the chaos, the sense of belonging. I missed being part of their daily lives, even if it was just through a group chat. But more than anything, I missed the feeling of being needed, of being loved, of being part of something bigger than myself. I took a deep breath, wiped away a stray tear, and reminded myself that families are messy, complicated, and sometimes downright confusing. But they're also resilient. Maybe this was just a bump in the road, a momentary misunderstanding that would pass with time. Or maybe it was the start of something new, a chance to set boundaries, to find a new way of being together. Either way, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let a thumbs up define my worth. Not today, not ever. And as I reached for my phone, ready to craft a response that was equal parts grace and grit, I realized that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply stand your ground and wait for the next move. After the shock of that message wore off, I sat in my living room, staring at my phone, feeling a cocktail of emotions swirling inside me: hurt, disbelief, and, if I'm honest, a little bit of righteous indignation. I mean, really, after all I'd done for them, this was how they wanted to play it? I could have cried, sure. I could have called my best friend and poured my heart out, or even written a long, emotional letter about feeling unappreciated. But instead, something inside me snapped. Maybe it was all those years of holding my tongue, or maybe it was just the realization that sometimes you have to remind people who's been keeping the lights on, literally and figuratively. So I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and decided to channel my inner Meryl Streep, poised, unbothered, and just a little bit dramatic. I typed out my reply, my fingers flying across the screen with a confidence I hadn't felt in years. Understood. I'll respect that and stay away from paying the house mortgage and the $5,000 monthly transfers. I hit send, and for a moment, the world seemed to stand still. There it was, my own little mic drop, sitting in the family group chat for everyone to see. If there was an Olympic medal for passive-aggressive comebacks, I'd be standing on the podium, gold medal around my neck, waving to the crowd. I could almost hear the applause from all the other mothers and grandmothers who'd ever felt taken for granted. It was a moment of pure, unfiltered satisfaction. But here's the thing. Sometimes you have to remind people where the Wi-Fi comes from. Am I right? I mean, who did they think set up the family Netflix account or made sure the fridge was always stocked with their favorite snacks? Who was there to babysit at the drop of a hat or to send a little just because money when things got tight? It's funny how quickly people forget the little things, the quiet ways you show up for them, day after day, year after year. Have you ever had to teach your family a little lesson in gratitude? Because, honey, that was my moment. I wasn't angry, not really. I was just tired. Tired of being the invisible safety net, the one who's always expected to give without ever asking for anything in return. So I decided to let my message do the talking. No tears, no drama, just a simple reminder that respect is a two-way street. As soon as I sent that message, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. It was as if I'd finally drawn a line in the sand, set a boundary that had been a long time coming. I put my phone down and went about my evening, making myself a cup of tea and settling in with a good book. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace, knowing that I'd stood up for myself without losing my cool. But of course the story didn't end there. Oh no, not by a long shot. Because if there's one thing I've learned about family, it's that they have a sixth sense for when the gravy train is about to leave the station. I could almost picture my son and daughter-in-law reading my message, their eyes widening as the reality of what I'd said began to sink in. I imagined Sarah, my daughter-in-law, clutching her phone, her mind racing through the monthly budget, realizing just how much those little transfers added up. And my son, bless his heart, probably wondering how he was going to explain this to the mortgage company. It was almost enough to make me laugh out loud, but beneath the humor, there was a deeper truth, a lesson I hoped they'd finally understand. I wasn't trying to punish them or to hold my support over their heads. I just wanted them to see me, really see me, as more than just a walking checkbook or a convenient babysitter. I wanted them to remember that family is about give and take, about respect and appreciation, not just about what you can get from someone. I thought about all the times I'd put their needs ahead of my own, all the sacrifices I'd made without ever asking for anything in return. And I realized, maybe for the first time, that it was okay to expect a little gratitude, a little kindness in return. As the evening wore on, I found myself smiling, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Maybe it was the tea, Or maybe it was the satisfaction of finally speaking my truth. Either way, I knew I'd done the right thing. I glanced at my phone, half expecting a flurry of messages, but the group chat was eerily silent. No apologies, no explanations, just a digital void where my family used to be. And you know what? That was fine by me. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. I went to bed that night with a sense of resolve, knowing that I'd finally taken a stand for myself. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, or how my family would react, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let anyone make me feel small, not anymore. And as I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but wonder, had I finally taught them the lesson they needed to learn, or was this just the beginning of a whole new chapter in our family saga? Either way, I was ready, because sometimes the best way to remind people of your worth is to simply step back and let them feel the difference. I don't know if you've ever experienced the sudden, frantic energy that comes when people realize the gravy train might be pulling out of the station. But let me tell you, it's a sight to behold, even if you're only witnessing it through the glow of your smartphone screen. That night, after my little clap back in the family group chat, I settled in for what I thought would be a quiet evening. I made myself a cup of chamomile tea, put on my coziest slippers, and even started a new puzzle on the kitchen table. I was feeling pretty good about myself, honestly, proud even, for finally standing up and setting a boundary. But as the sun dipped below the horizon and the house grew quiet, my phone started buzzing. At first, it was just a single call from my son. I glanced at the screen, saw his name, and let it ring. I figured he could stew for a bit. After all, I'd been stewing all afternoon. But then, not 5 minutes later, another call came in. This time it was Sarah, my daughter-in-law. I could practically hear the panic in her voice through the caller ID. I let that one go to voicemail, too. I know. Maybe it sounds a little petty, but after years of being the one to smooth things over, to always answer on the first ring, I decided it was time to let them sweat just a little. And let me tell you, it was oddly satisfying, but the calls didn't stop there. Oh no. My phone lit up like Times Square on New Year's Eve. Call after call, text after text, notifications popping up so fast I could barely keep up. Mom, can we talk? Mom, it was just a misunderstanding. Grandma, are you mad at us? Even my grandkids, who usually only call when they want a new video game or a ride to soccer practice, were suddenly desperate to get in touch. I had to laugh. Isn't it funny how quickly people remember your number when the mortgage is on the line? For months, I'd been the invisible hand, quietly making sure the bills were paid, the fridge was full, and the kids had everything they needed. But the moment I threatened to step back, I became the most popular woman in town. I'll admit, I had a little fun with it. I let the calls go to voicemail, one after another, just for a few hours. Don't judge me, you'd do the same. I even turned my phone on silent for a bit and enjoyed the peace and quiet, knowing that for once, they were the ones feeling anxious and uncertain. As the evening wore on, the messages started to change. At first, they were all about damage control. Mom, please call us back. We didn't mean it like that. Let's talk this out. But as the hours passed and I still hadn't responded, the tone shifted. My son's messages grew more frantic, his texts longer and more apologetic. Sarah sent a string of heart emojis, followed by a lengthy explanation about how stressed she'd been, how she hadn't meant to hurt my feelings, how much they all loved and appreciated me. Even the grandkids got in on the action, sending me little voice notes. Grandma, we miss you. Grandma, are you coming over tomorrow? It was almost enough to make me cave, almost. But I held firm, reminding myself that this was about more than just one message or one misunderstanding. This was about respect, about being seen and valued for everything I do, not just when it's convenient, but all the time. I spent the rest of the evening reflecting on how easy it is for families to fall into patterns, to take each other for granted without even realizing it. I thought about all the times I'd dropped everything to help, all the times I'd put their needs ahead of my own, all the little ways I'd shown up for them, day in and day out. And I realized that maybe, just maybe, this was the wake-up call they needed. Maybe it was time for them to see what life would be like without me quietly holding everything together behind the scenes. I wasn't angry anymore, just hopeful that this little shake-up would lead to something better, something more honest and balanced, eventually. As the night wore on and the calls slowed down, I decided to listen to a few of the voicemails. My son's voice was thick with worry, his words tumbling over each other as he tried to explain, to apologize, to make things right. Sarah's message was softer, more emotional, full of regret and promises to do better. And the grandkids, well, their messages were just pure sweetness, little reminders of why I put up with all the chaos in the first place. I smiled, my heart softening, but I still didn't call back. Not yet. I wanted them to sit with their feelings for a little while longer, to really understand the impact of their words and actions. As I climbed into bed that night, my phone still buzzing on the nightstand, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. I knew that tomorrow would bring conversations, apologies, maybe even a few tears. But for now, I was content to let them miss me, to let them realize just how much I do for them, and how much they truly need me. Not just for the money or the help, but for the love and support that only a mother and grandmother can give. And as I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but smile, knowing that sometimes the best way to teach a lesson is to simply step back and let the silence do the talking. The next morning, after a night of letting my phone buzz itself silly and giving everyone a little time to stew in their own thoughts, I decided it was time to face the music. I made myself a strong cup of coffee, none of that weak stuff, mind you. This was a family summit kind of day, and sat down at the kitchen table, ready to finally answer the calls. We set up a video chat because in this day and age, nothing says family meeting like everyone's faces frozen in awkward expressions and the occasional, "Can you hear me now?" My son looked sheepish, his hair sticking up in every direction, and Sarah, my daughter-in-law, had that look of someone who'd been up all night rehearsing apologies. The grandkids popped in and out of the frame, waving and making silly faces, blissfully unaware of the grown-up drama swirling around them. I took a deep breath, determined to keep things honest but loving, and started the conversation. "So," I said, "I think we need to talk about what happened." There was a long pause, one of those heavy silences where you can almost hear everyone's thoughts clattering around. Sarah was the first to speak, her voice trembling just a bit. She admitted she'd been overwhelmed, juggling work, the kids, and everything else life had thrown at her. She said she never meant to hurt me, that her message was more about needing space than shutting me out. My son, bless his heart, confessed he hadn't really thought about what he was doing when he hit that thumbs up. He just wanted to keep the peace and didn't realize how it would come across. I listened, nodding, letting them get it all out. And when it was my turn, I told them the truth. I just wanted a little respect, a little appreciation for all the ways I try to help, not just financially, but emotionally too. I told them how that message made me feel, like I was being pushed out of my own family, like all the years of love and support suddenly didn't count for anything. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, though I'll admit my voice wobbled a bit. But I made sure they understood that I wasn't just a bank account or a babysitter. I was their mother. Their mother-in-law, their grandma, and I deserved to be treated with kindness. What happened next surprised me. Instead of more defensiveness or excuses, there was a real sense of understanding. We laughed a little, because if you can't laugh at family drama, what can you laugh at? And we even cried a little too. Sarah apologized again, this time with tears in her eyes, and my son promised to be more thoughtful in the future. We talked about boundaries, about how it's okay to need space, but it's not okay to make someone feel unwanted. We agreed that the family group chat was for love, for sharing good news and silly photos and the occasional recipe, not for exile or passive-aggressive messages. I told them I'd keep helping with the mortgage because that's what family does, but I also made it clear that my support wasn't something to be taken for granted. We set a new rule. If anyone has an issue, we talk about it, face-to-face or at least voice-to-voice. No more cryptic texts or digital thumbs up. And you know what? It felt good. It felt like we'd finally cleared the air, like we were all on the same team again. After the call, I sat back and let out a long, slow breath. It wasn't perfect, no family ever is, but it was real. We'd faced the hard stuff together, and we'd come out the other side a little stronger, a little wiser, and maybe even a little closer. I realized that sometimes you have to let things fall apart a bit before you can put them back together in a way that works for everyone. I thought about all the women I know, friends, sisters, neighbors, who've had to remind their families who's really holding the purse strings, or who've been the peacemakers, the glue that holds everyone together when things get tough. I thought about how easy it is to feel invisible, to feel like all your hard work and love goes unnoticed, and how important it is to stand up for yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. And I thought about how grateful I was for the chance to have that conversation, to say what needed to be said, and to hear what my family needed too. So, let me ask you, have you ever had to remind your family who's really holding the purse strings? Or maybe you've been the peacemaker, the one who smooths things over and keeps everyone connected. I'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment below and let's share a little wisdom, a little laughter, and maybe even a few tears. Because at the end of the day, family isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, speaking your truth, and loving each other through the mess. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life tales, a few laughs, and a whole lot of heart. After all, we're all in this together, and sometimes a little family therapy is just what the doctor ordered.